Hello, good afternoon. My name is Izetta Autumn Mobley. I am the Director of Interpretation, Collections, and Education at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. I use she, her pronouns, and I am joining from Piscataway and Nacotcheklan and what is otherwise known as Washington, D.C. I am so thrilled that you are here to join us for the second day of our Read-a-thon, which is part of our Reading the Culture theme for the fall 2022 programming season. The idea behind Reading the Culture was to foster a space of learning, investigation, curiosity, imagination, and deep reflection grounded in a love of reading. And as Black folks, we know that sometimes you're reading a book, sometimes you are reading a person, as in the library is open. And so we wanted to think about all of the different ways that we can come together to literally read the culture. Today, we have a wonderful opportunity to check in to see what you are reading and discuss what you're planning to read maybe over the holiday season. But we'll also be in conversation with memoir author Michelle Petties on her memoir, Leaving Large, The Stories of a Food Addict, as she shares a collection of personal essays that chronicle her journey and evolving relationship with health and food. So, as we get started, I want to encourage you, since we're going to be discussing a memoir related to food, maybe let us know a little bit about what some of your favorite food, some of your favorite genres are to read. Or maybe you can share a little bit about a meal that has been really meaningful to you. We just ask that you use the hashtag Reggie Reads. And you can do that over on many socials from Instagram to Facebook to YouTube and Twitter while it's up. So please enjoy. I'm really, really delighted to introduce both Michelle Petties, our author today, and Ron Goins. Michelle is an author, speaker, food story finder, and experiential eating expert. In her memoir, she uses personal and powerful food stories to chronicle a lifetime of eating and illustrate how events, experiences, and memories inform our beliefs, attitudes, and habits around food, eating and hunger, and reveals the answers to why we eat and some of the stories that are embedded in our ideas of food. And I'm so thrilled and delighted that Michelle will be joining my wonderful colleague, Ron Goins, who is the Director of Development at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. He has done everything from being a college student athlete to being a professional athlete playing abroad to working with Planned Parenthood, the Human Rights Campaign, and the movement for Black Lives. And I'm so thrilled. I have to tell you, I got a little treat of hearing them in conversation before we went live, and we're in for a treat of a really rich conversation between these two wonderful folks. Welcome. Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
thank you. Thank you, Izetta. It's great to be here.
So glad to have you both. So before we got started, we were sort of having this conversation about the importance and central role of walking. And Michelle, I wondered if you could talk about how walking has been part of your journey. And I'd love for you and Ron to talk a little bit about those two connections.
Sure. Yeah, the name of the book is Leaving Large. So even in the title, there's this nod to movement. And my journey actually did start. Um, my journey started when I found myself without a car. I found myself without a car, and I had to walk. And I had really never made the connection. I had never really made the connection of how central that kind of movement was to getting a body that I wanted. But I always yearned for it. It was always a battle for me. But once I started walking and started to see the weight fall off, it became real for me. The notion that I could be happy with my body became real during the course of my walking. Even though I was mad when I started, because I didn't have a car. And I will tell you something right now, Izetta and Ron. People see me walking around Annapolis every day, And people, what I didn't realize is that, until they started telling me, is that people look forward to seeing me walk. They want to,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you always look so happy. You always, people
Mm-hmm.
honk at me, right? Nobody was honking at me when I was walking, when I was mad. No, 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 no. I didn't get, no, nobody was waving at me. Hey, how you doing? But what they see now is a different person, a
Mm-hmm.
different person that is in balance, that is looking for balance, that is in joy while she's walking. I enjoy it, which is, it takes you to a whole takes you
Yeah.
to a whole different place.
Yeah. You never know who is watching, Michelle, who is watching you, and how just you literally living in your power and doing your thing allows someone else to live in theirs. I get the same reaction. There
Mhm.
are these security guards and some of the folks who work in the retail shops around where I live, and they have literally seen my transformation.
Yeah,
They say, I used to watch you walk by my window every day,
yeah.
and you were just getting smaller and smaller. And I was always just like, what is going on? And but you were so dedicated. They were like, I could keep my watch by you
Mhm,
coming by this window. So
mhm.
I totally understand that, and I totally get that. And I don't know that people really understand the power of how walking or just starting, getting your body moving is such a catalyst
Yes.
for your health journey specifically.
Yes, yes, yeah, and to get to the, and see, here's what I think happens, and what I hope anybody that's watching gets from this, is that you can get to the place where it is joy. Everything you hear about, exercising and moving out says do something that you enjoy, do something that you like, so that you will continue it. And if you haven't moved and you haven't done anything for a while, it's going to be new. And yeah, it's going to be a new habit. It's going to feel strange. You might not want to do it, but if you get past those initial stages, right? You get past that hump to the joy on the other side. You have to have some faith that there's joy on the other side. That
Yeah.
and that's the same thing with food and eating. As we're making new choices, those choices don't always show up in our body right away. You
Yeah.
just you just have to make smart choices that are good for your health, with the belief and the understanding and the faith that it's going to show up. That it's going to show, that my body's going to catch up with my actions right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the way that you have framed this idea around belief and anchoring your practices in something, I think that's really the key. Is that everybody sort of like goes after the aesthetic, and I want to look, and it's just like you need to feel it from the inside out. It's
Oh,
inside out. And
oh.
people, and I think that that is really the key. Like when I got my spiritual practices together, and when I got to a place where I was making choices because I started to believe that I was worth it. I am worth this. So when I started to cultivate my own worthiness, it made making those choices so much easier.
Oh,
Mhm.
Ron. I mean, if I was in, if
Don't
I was in
stop
the,
it.
if I was in the window with you, I'd kiss you right now. Because, dude, you nailed it.
Yeah,
You nailed it. And part of it, when you said so much in that, but one of the very first things is we have to believe that we deserve good health.
yeah,
That's thing one. We have to believe that we deserve it, that we're entitled to it, that our health really is our wealth. That's the first thing. And then the
mhm,
second thing is we have to know what it looks like.
yeah,
We haven't even seen it for so long that we don't know what good health looks like, nor what it feels like.
Mhm.
And I mean, I felt that myself. Is that
yeah,
I was so numb to how I felt. I didn't know how I felt. And for so long, I wouldn't even look at myself in the mirror. When I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. It was hard, even doing this book, it was hard finding pictures because I was afraid of the camera. I never wanted to take pictures.
yeah,
So in that in that space of not even knowing that you deserve to look a certain way or that you're entitled to it, that is all wrapped up in it. That
Yeah.
you just get you you know, I'm going to switch for a second. I was doing some research, and I read some research that said during the holiday, people always, eat a certain way, or there's so much food around during the holidays, that during the holidays, people may gain 1 or 2 pounds
Yeah.
during the holidays. And in the big scheme of things, 1 or 2 pounds is not that big a deal. Not really. Right? 1 or 2 pounds with some focused effort, you can lose that in a month or less.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, most people don't. People don't lose that 1 or 2 pounds, they carry it. And so for 20 years or for 30 years, you gain 1 or 2 pounds at Christmas. Then you look up and you've gained 50 pounds. And you say to yourself, but I still eat the same way. And you do for the most part,
Yeah.
except for during Christmas time when you gain those 1 or 2 pounds and you don't lose them.
Yeah.
And so but my point is it happens so incrementally that we don't even see it. It
Yeah.
happens so incrementally that we don't even feel it until we just look up one day you don't recognize yourself. Who is that?
Yeah. But
How did this happen?
Michelle, do you think, is it also true though for you that your belief about food and how you got to that place also was something that built over time
Oh,
slowly?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought me back because I can go off on a tangent. So in my book, it is a collection, just like I said, a collection of stories of that the stories that kind of kept me trapped in these misconceptions about food. And when I went back to the stories, those same stories freed me. And here's what I mean by the belief system is that a food story is really the thing that you think about food that makes you eat it in a certain way or not eat it in a certain way. And that thing that you think is based on an emotion. And it's the thing that explains why we eat what we eat. And the food story can be conscious, it can be subconscious, and it can be unconscious. Conscious food story. I don't eat peanuts. I don't eat crab. I don't eat those things because I'm allergic to them. I consciously do not eat those things because if I eat them, my eyes will get red, my throat swell up. I'm allergic to them. Or I ate some bad fish one time, so now I don't eat that anymore. That is a food story. That belief that the consequences of eating that particular food, those consequences are consequences you don't want to deal with as a result of eating the food. That's your food. That's the thing that you think about that food, right?
Yeah.
That's a conscious food story. All right. I don't know about y'all, but I grew up with, you know what, young lady, you better clean your plate.
Yep.
We don't we
Yep.
work we work too hard in this house. We don't
Yep.
throw away food in this house. That
Starving people in Africa would love to have this food.
You know what? I'm telling you right, not people in Africa, people around the corner.
Right.
We don't have to go all the way to Africa. We can go down the street. You know.
Right.
So you hear that from the time you can pick up the fork by yourself, clean your plate, eat the right. We're not throwing away food. Okay, you don't want it. We're gonna put it in the refrigerator. You eat it later, right? but now you have this belief that I need to clean my plate. It is embedded in your mind. It is in your subconscious. So when you go someplace like, I don't know, Cheesecake Factory, not hating on Cheesecake Factory, but someplace that serves these enormous portions, it's 2,000 calories on one plate. Let's say you've gone to a diet, you decided you want to be on a diet, you want to go to some program. You can't even do the very first thing that the program says do, which is stop eating when you're hungry, because you have a food story that says clean your plate. You're presented with these 2,000 calories and you don't understand why can't I stop eating? Why do I still want to eat? Why you can't even feel the real hunger because this story is driving your behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're also okay. Eat your vegetables, and then you can have some chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Right? Now food is reward.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we have shifted it, right? Right?
Mm,
And so we use food in this culture. I grew up with it in many ways for everything other than what it is, which is just nutrition and nourishment.
yeah.
And so there's stories that there's stories that are created in the media, stories that are created in the family, stories created in our own head that create an emotional attachment to food to make it something other than what it is. And that drives our desire for it rather than real hunger.
No, you
So
just
that so I
lied.
just gave so I just gave you the conscious food story, the subconscious food story. Here's an unconscious one. A couple of I have a bunch of unconscious ones, but a while back I was having a disagreement with my sweetie. We were upstairs. We were upstairs in the townhouse. We were having a disagreement about something. Can't remember now exactly what it was, but it was a disagreement, and it wasn't even a big disagreement. It was just it was one of those, right? So I stomped downstairs. And on the dining room table there was a bowl of nuts. And as I was stomping downstairs to go outside, I passed by the bowl of nuts and I just put my hand
Mm-hmm.
inside the bowl of nuts.
Yep.
And because I have three questions that I ask myself before I eat anything, I was able to stop it.
Mm,
And one of those questions is, am I hungry right now or am I something else? Before I eat
ooh,
anything,
that's
I ask
good.
that question. Am I hungry or am I something else? And I looked at those nuts. I'm like, why do I have these nuts? Was I hungry when I was upstairs? I wasn't. I wasn't. I
That's
wasn't
good.
hungry when I was, but the nuts were there. But I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm annoyed. I'm irritated. Boom. I picked up those nuts, and they were cashews. I love cashews,
Yeah.
right? But the though it was a reflex. It was
Hmm.
a reflex to give me some pleasure in a situation that was creating some discomfort for me.
Yeah.
And so we do it all the time. And I have this theory, 4 out of 5 African American women are either overweight or obese. 4 out of 5. For
Wow.
a long time I was part of that number. And I have this theory is that we are hit part of this is that we are hit with so many microaggressions. We're hit with so much discomfort. We're hit with so many things that come at us day after day after day, right? And it is so easy to reach for some chips. It is so easy to reach for some things to distract us from, to give us some pleasure in the midst of all this stuff that's going on that we don't have any control over. And
Yeah.
I think we get hit with that more than the average bear. And so, since we get hit with that more than the average bear, we find ourselves reaching for food to mask it, to help deal with it, which it doesn't do. We think that it does, but it doesn't. All it does is just give us some little temporary relief, but the thing is still there.
Still there.
The
Yeah.
thing is still there. And so we have to. So when I see my old self walking down the street, and I see it a lot, this I feel some compassion. I feel compassion because what I know is that here is a sister that's got a lot of stuff going on,
Mhm.
right? Here's a sister but but she hasn't figured out how to deal with it in a way that doesn't involve food. And so, since she hasn't figured out a way to deal with it in a way that doesn't involve food, those things never get solved. They never get solved because food can't solve it. The only thing that food can solve is hunger.
Mhm.
The only thing that can solve is hunger. So when we're reaching for food just because it's there, you go to the movies, right? You go to the movies and you get popcorn automatically. Even if you just left dinner,
Yeah.
even if you just had dinner, you're gonna go to the movie. You're gonna get popcorn. You're gonna put all that stuff on it. You don't even know what it is, right? That that's unconscious.
True. It's
That
true.
that you go someplace. You go to the car dealer, right? You go to the car dealer. You got a huge car repair that you weren't expecting to have to pay for. They have all the little muffins and snacks sitting around the car dealer. What are you gonna do? You're gonna pick it up because first of all, because it's free, right?
Right.
You
Right.
no, second of all, because you're mad. You're in the car dealer spending
Yeah.
money spending it on you. They owe me these muffins. They better give me some of these. That's $1,500, right?
Right. Is that why you wrote the book, Michelle? Was to tell folks about how to become more conscious?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So here's Ron, what I figured out for myself. I figured out I was eating too much of the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and I was doing it unconsciously. I was eating too much of the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and I was doing it unconsciously. And for 40 years, I just focused on the amount and the thing.
Yeah.
I did not focus on the consciousness and the reason.
Mm.
And this book was about me flipping the script, was about me starting to focus on the reason, the consciousness and awareness. And when I started doing that, then it made the amount and the what easier to manage.
Yeah.
There wasn't a conflict, because once in the here's the secret, is that everything that is out there has us focused on behavior. And behavior is, how much am I eating? How much am I working out? And do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying that those things aren't important. Those things do have to change. But if your behavior is in conflict with your belief system, the belief system will always win. That's why I would lost weight and would gain it back for 40 years. Lose 30, gain 40, lose 40, gain 50. Because I would lose it, I'd get there temporarily, and then my real belief system would kick back in. Once I learned how to change my belief system, then the battle ceased. Then I found peace. Then I could step into the behavior with ease because my belief system changed. And the way that I found that I was able to change my belief system, the way that I teach people to change their belief system is the thing that is overlooked in every diet book, in most diet programs. It is the writing. It is the writing that allows us to rewire our brain. It is the writing that allows us to put new thoughts in against all these other thoughts that are coming around that tell us that food is salvation. That tell us food is something that we go to when we're lonely. That food is something for boredom. That food is entertainment. That food is an activity.
They literally say comfort food, soul food, that this is supposed to be something that is supposed to give you those feelings.
Right, right. And so we have to change that narrative. We have to change that narrative. And I will tell you what, I literally went, I say the dictionary, but it wasn't a dictionary, it was Google. It was
Yeah.
Google. I went to Google and I looked up the definition of food. I looked up the definition of food. I've been eating all my life. I've been eating for 60 years, never looked up the definition of food, right? I looked it up, and this was a light bulb moment for me. The definition said nutrition, nourishment, energy, cell development, growth, all that. And I was like, this is the purpose of food. That is its only purpose.
Yeah.
Its only purpose is for nutrition, nourishment, cell development, all that, our body, to maintain us. And I looked at that definition, and then I looked at all this stuff that's in the grocery stores, all this stuff that's peddled, that they call it food, and it is not. It is just a food-like substance. It is
Ooh.
just a food-like substance. And I got to the point where I make a decision that food food is just a tool. It is a tool. In food management, I don't say relationship. I got to the point where I moved out of that word. Food management is a skill to get us to the life and the body that we want. So we have to decide up front, how do I want to look? How do I want to live? How do I want to feel? Do I want to go blind from diabetes? Do I want my my limb amputated from diabetes? Do I want my joints hurting? Do I want to look down and not be able to see my feet? Do I want a medicine cabinet full of pills? Do I want to have to sleep with a sleep apnea machine? Do
Mhm.
I want that?
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of life do I want? So
Yeah.
you decide what kind of life you want. You decide how you want to live. You decide how you want to feel. And then you look at that definition of food and you find the foods that will give you that.
Yeah.
Food is just a means to an end, but we have to decide on the end that we deserve. We have to decide on the end that we want to have, and not be a slave to our taste buds.
Yeah. You
That,
sound like my trainer, actually, Michelle. So my trainer says to me all the time, food is fuel. That's what he said all
Yes,
the time. He's like, food is fuel.
it
Like, and
is.
I'm just like, but it needs to da, 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 da. And he's like, no, it doesn't. He's like,
Mm,
food is fuel.
no.
And so you saying that really is validating, what he's trying to instill in me around how I view food and my
Yes,
food management. The thing that you said too about um, food being an investment in your health is your wealth. I remember, someone was talking about the presidential candidates, and it was just like, Joe Biden is like almost 80 years old. And I was like, yeah, he is almost 80 years old. So was, Trump and all this other stuff. And they were just like, man, what could you do in 30 or 40 years? You could run for president. I was like, 30 or 40 years is a long time. That is a long time. You really could live an entirely different life over the course of the next 3 or 4 decades if you're here.
if you're here,
If
if
you're
if
here.
if you are here, and if you are in good health,
Yes, if you're in
if
good
you
health
are
and you're
here,
here.
and if you are in good health.
Yeah.
And so, but here's the thing, Ron, is that on a certain level, none of this is our fault, because we have so many messages coming at us that tell us that food is something that it is not.
Hmm.
We have so many messages telling us that food is status.
Yeah.
We have so many messages telling us that food is entertainment. We have so many messages telling us that food is family, that food is culture. And I'm not saying that it's not connected to those things, but when we get it obscured and we think that it is those things, then we go to food to supply those things, and it never can.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's the difference. Like if you're a kid, you fall down and you scrape your knee, you scrape your elbow, you scrape your knuckle or something. And then when I was a kid, you do that, then it's like, oh, come here, baby, let mama kiss your elbow, right.
Hmm.
Then you got a little love on it. That's okay. You feel it here. You want a chocolate chip cookie? Will that make you feel better? Now
Yeah.
you see how the messages get mixed up. You
Yeah.
start thinking that when something hurts, I go for the cookie. I go for that,
Mhm.
you know. And we get messages all around that tell us that food is the solution to everything. Whether it is at the center of education, it is at the center of religion, gender. Did I say culture? It
Yep.
it it, it,
Yeah.
it is made to be at the center of everything, and it need not be.
So I've got to ask this question about Michelle. You mentioned there are three questions that you ask yourself before you eat, and I want to know what those three questions are. But I know that both you and Ron have a Southern background, and we're talking about some of those cultural
Mm-hmm.
expectations
Mm-hmm.
around food and eating, and,
Mm-hmm.
and in many ways, right? We do show love through providing food, or like this idea that I'm always scandalized when you go to someone's house and the food is either not properly seasoned or there's not a bountiful amount of it, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
so
Oh,
scandalized. You've invited me to, and even if I don't plan to eat it, right?
It needs to be there.
It is that this is what I was taught hospitality
yes.
looks like, right? Like
Yes.
that hospitality is not just I
Yes.
prepared enough for the table, but like I want you to be able to take a to go thing
Yes.
because I'm
Yes.
showing you um,
Yes.
my that's part of the cultural hospitality. So I
Right.
got to know the three questions that you ask yourself, and I wondered if we could talk about culture and food and ways that we can keep the core pieces of the culture that
Mm-hmm.
embrace certain food um, food ways or ways of
Mm-hmm.
showing love with food while also sort of thinking about keeping that in balance.
Sure, I can. Okay, so here are the three questions. The first question is, if this food will not give me the body I say I want, why am I eating it? First question. And so one of the things that these questions do is they give us pause. They help us break the pattern. They help, raise the awareness. So if this food will not give me the body that I say that I want, why am I eating it? The second question is, why this food now? Why this particular food? Why this particular food now? And as I said earlier, am I hungry or am I something else? And so, those questions specifically hit a couple of different touch points. And in my book, I write about being a food addict. I write about being a sugar addict. And there's one passage where I write about um, going to the grocery store and buying a 4-pack of bran muffins and eating all 4 of those bran muffins before I ever leave the parking lot in my car.
Mm.
And here's the thing about that is that, and this is where that why this food now comes in, is that I'm a sugar addict. If it had just been the sugar, I could have just eaten a bag of sugar. I could have had a Snickers bar. I could have had a blueberry muffin. I could have had Oreos. I could have had any other sugar laden thing. I'm not gonna even say food. I could have had any other sugar laden thing if it was just about the sugar. But those bran muffins meant something to me. Those bran muffins meant something specific to me, so it had to be bran muffins.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a piece. First of all, I was probably really hungry. I was probably really hungry because I hadn't had any nourishing food, right? That's thing one. But I was also probably, and I can't remember specifically because I did that. I did it a bunch of different times in in a in a in a in some sort of state. And I grew up with my grandparents, and that's what happens in the South. You grow up with your grandfather, you grow up with your grandmother, and she loved bran muffins. She loved bran muffins. It was a big deal when she made them, and it was we'd go to the store, we'd buy the all bran, and it was all. I'm in the kitchen with her, helping her measure. So that meant something to me, and I needed that memory for some specific reason for whatever was going on. So it had to be the brand. So it had to be the bran muffins, and that's what we have. We have these connections to memories that at least I did, and I know I'm not alone. I see myself as a microcosm of everything else. That these pleasurable memories that we connect to certain things, we connect it to the food. In reality, we do not want the food. What we want is what the food represents. We want the feeling, we want the experience. We want to go back to that moment, and we think that it's tied to the food, and we don't know how to just sit and recapture that moment without doing it through the food. And once you learn how to do that, that's when you can find some freedom, because you're able to get what you really need. You're able to get soothed in a way that you really need to be soothed, if it's soothing that you need.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the 3 questions. Now, Isaiah, there are some cultures that you go to, if they invite you over to eat and you eat your entire plate, eat everything on your plate, they are offended.
I know, I'm aware of those, and I have places not to go for that.
so, here's my point about that, is that it is in some cultures you're offended, and in other cultures, if you don't ask for seconds, something wrong with the food, you didn't like it, it becomes like a personal affront. But it is just food. It's what we believe about the food, and we have to ultimately, and this is something that I had to get to. We have to ultimately get to the point where we go back to something that Ron said earlier about our own worth. Where we make a decision. I made a decision that my own health is more important than anybody else's expectation. And so
I have to write that down.
Yeah.
But I do have 100 ways to teach people that you can say no and not hurt somebody's feelings, because you look at the food and it's hard. If somebody loves you and they have made something for you because they made it out of love, this is their gift for you. Mm-hmm. And you want to be respectful of their talent. You want to honor that. You want them to feel good, and you think you have to eat it, but you don't. So you can first thing is you just love on them. that, oh my God, that looks so wonderful. I love you for doing this. You, oh, did they, Ron, did they say that when you grow up, you really put your foot in this? You
Oh,
put
you put your foot in this.
you put
Yeah.
your, right, you
100%.
put your foot in
Yeah.
this. But you know what? I am so full right now. If I ate it right now, I wouldn't even enjoy it. And I know you made it for my enjoyment, so I'm just going to wrap it up. I'm going to take it home. Is that going to be all right with you? But I appreciate you, right? So you can wrap it home. You can wrap it up and throw it away.
Yeah.
You can wrap it up and throw it away if it does not serve your health goals. And then quite frankly, it does become a matter of, I just ate. And I know you want me to enjoy this, or my doctor told me I can't eat that anymore. You wouldn't want me to do what my doctor doesn't want me to do. There, but we have to. I know we want to preserve people's feelings. We do, and the big compliment, the big juicy compliment, you put that up front, and then you delay it. I'll get it a little later. I'm going to come back to that. Let me wrap it up. Something that preserves it, but you do not have to eat it. And then after a while, people will step up to where you are.
Mhm.
This is what I found. Once we put our boundaries in place, then people will learn. We have to teach people how to treat us around our own eating. But that's a muscle that we have to build, our own confidence, believing in our own voice. Because people say, oh, think about the people that don't eat pork. Oh, I don't, no, I don't eat pork. No, nobody questions them. You sure? You put it out there. I don't eat pork. Nobody said, you sure you want just a little piece of bacon won't hurt? No, nobody says that, right? Because there's such conviction in that. Oh, you know what? I don't eat sugar. I used to like sweets, but I don't like that much. I don't like it that much. Oh, you know what? One plate is enough for me. You sure you don't want some more? Thank you so much. I appreciate you for offering, but I'm good.
Yeah.
And then let it go. We have to own our own conviction. When we own our own conviction, then after a while, people will start announcing it for you. She's only going to eat one plate, and you're like, yeah, that's right. but we it has to be so important to us, our own health. Our it has got to be the most. We have to be willing to stand up to what anybody says about our choices, because it's our life.
Yeah.
Because it's our life.
Yeah.
And it does, and I said I want to go back to, I actually um looked up the love languages.
Mhm.
And so, and I hear people say all the time, food is my love language. And it's only that because you have made it so.
Mhm.
And we have to create a new love language that serves our health and the health of people that we love. And love is just love, food is just food. And these love languages, affirmation, that's giving somebody the words. That's saying to somebody, I love you. That's an affirmative. Then acts of service, that's doing something for someone, not necessarily cooking. I think about the Bible. I think about Jesus was washing his disciples' feet. Why, give somebody a pedicure, a manicure, right? That's that and that's an act of service. Then spending time. I think about my sister. Sometimes my sister and I, we'll just sit next to one another for hours and hours. We're not even talking.
Yeah.
But it's just the energy. It's just spending time. Just, I can look over there at her and she can look over there at me. And that's a love, because we're in the space, we're sharing the space with one another. That's a love language. Just sit here, come sit next to me. That's love language. I love you so much. I just want to be right here, right next to you. And then touch. That when we hold hands, that's a love language. When you walk by and you just like, Ron, I see you, I come rub you on your head. And rub
Come on, give me a little shine. Come on now.
That's a little love tap. That's a little love language. And then receiving and giving gifts, right? And I say that for last. And I say that for last because I think that that's where we're kind of in area of confusion because we see food, we treat food as that gift. We see food as a gift, and it can be a gift. It can be a gift when it nourishes us, but when it is poison, it is not a gift. And when we start seeing food for just nutrition and nourishment, then that forces us to be more creative. But that forces us to think of other things that we can do that can be gifts outside of food. Food. Let's go out. You know what? You just got a promotion. Let's go out to eat. You just gotta. It's your birthday. Let's go out to eat. Let's do this. Let's go out to eat. Going out to eat becomes this default thing that allows us not to exercise our creativity in some other areas. Let's just try this for a month. For a month, not even a month, a week. If you're gonna celebrate somebody, if you want to honor somebody, if you want to do something nice for somebody, make it not going out to eat. Make it something else. See where that takes you. See where that takes the relationship. See what other dimension we can have with one another. Because reality, we have at least 4 other senses other than the sense of taste. We can enjoy food without eating it.
Yeah.
We can. But we have to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So
you know what's interesting is that what you're saying is it's so rich with insights about how to live your life, and how to be conscious about what's going on and what you put into your mouth.
Yes.
In terms of the culture, though, I just want to get your take on this too, Michelle, is don't you think that it's also true that, I grew up in the Southern tradition, Southern hospitality, and then, being Black folk and all of that. There is something about the way that our ancestors prepared food that we still do today that we don't have to do.
Yes.
Like the way that they used to cook with lard, we don't have to do that. That was a necessity for them back then.
Mm-hmm.
The pieces of the hog and the chicken that they used, we don't have to do that. It was all they could get.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to choose the low quality pieces anymore because that's all that we can get. We can choose a higher quality meat, a leaner cut. We can do all of these things differently. And we also can change our perception around the way that we view each other. There's something about, I think it's anecdotal, but I think that there's a lot of Black people who say that they're thick, and thick is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Like to be thick, to be bigger, to be, and there is a cultural tie to it. Back in the day, when you were when you didn't know where your meal was coming from, to show wealth and to show status, you were bigger.
Yes.
It was a sign that you were doing well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so, but we aren't there anymore.
Right.
And so how do you break down those kinds of cultural barriers and obstacles, still preserve the tradition and honor our ancestors, but also realize we don't have to do that. There ain't no meat in them neck bones. Stop doing that.
So,
I love neck bones, but I'm just saying.
I was like, we're turning on neck bones now. Is that what's happening? Next, we're gonna come with a pot liquor. Don't
love me some neck bones.
You call it pot liquor. I call it bouillon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's something too there that I think is really interesting to think about the history of food and the context of anti-Blackness, because there's a part around which Black people historically in this country have not always been able to have control over our diets. And that even if you're thinking contemporary ideas about how many Black folks live in food deserts, where food is very difficult to get a hold of, that if we're thinking about, even when folks are thinking about soul food is not inherently unhealthy, right? There are many dishes like collards, I heard someone turn against turnips the other day, and I love turnip greens.
Oh,
I
me
think
too.
they're delicious.
Hmm.
But there's a history of soul food, real soul food, that is actually grounded in greens and good fats and nutritious foods. But that what has happened is that because of the industrialization of food and these very particular ways, it undoes some of the more healthful eating, or that people can't have gardens anymore in the same kind of
Hmm.
way. So that
Hmm.
there's also this aspect of both what you're saying, Ron, where we can make different choices. My family is team smoked turkey and
I
the
love
green,
a smoked turkey and fried turkey too.
Yeah.
not the fried turkey. I feel like I was the only kindergartner who went to school with alfalfa sprouts. Um, that's the kind of mother I had. I had
Yeah.
alfalfa
Yeah.
sprouts, and I
Yeah.
would have carrots and homemade hummus. That's how Miss Gloria did me. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
That's some good
but
stuff right there.
right, but like thinking about the way that like there's an inherent anti-blackness in even the way that black folk can get a hold of food that then can do the nourishment of us. And some of that is a lot of that is structural, when you literally cannot get a hold of food that nourishes you. And that soul food in its first sort of, yes, we're talking about, parts of the pig and all of this kind of thing, but there's also inherent things that are very healthy. Turnip greens, lots of spinach. And so there's a way that sort of gets broken down, right, when we're no longer in charge of our own food and
Yeah.
making it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you said a lot of rich stuff in there, Isetta. But here's the thing, is that we now um, live in a society, a culture that is pushing unhealthy food on us, and it is pushing unhealthy food and unhealthy food management by building desire for it.
Mm.
And so it is, the onus is on us. We have to be vigilant and use those three questions ourselves and other tools to protect our own health, because there there is an industry out there that is committed to building desire and creating messaging around food that makes it something else.
Mhm.
And when we buy into it and we start buying into that's something else, rather than nutrition and nourishment, and reading the labels for ourselves and making decisions for ourselves and leading it, then we are going to go down a path of ill health. Because you hear, and I want to talk about the food deserts a little bit.
Mhm.
um they do exist, I acknowledge that, but given our current state of our environment,
Mhm.
if you put a bag of apples right here and you put some fried apple pies over here, the people are going to come in and they're going to buy the fried apple pies. They're not going to buy the apples. You put some bananas right here and you put little banana bread right here, people are going to buy the banana bread and not buy the bananas. The bananas are going to be two for $1. That banana bread is going to be 2.49.
Mhm.
And so it is not always about the accessibility. It's not. It is about the desire, because desire has been created for the taste of that sweet thing. The desire has been created for, ooh, fresh baked banana bread. Don't we love the smell of it? You're in the kitchen. All the desire has been created for that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so people go in and they that's what sells this stuff,
Mhm.
desire.
But do
But
you think that there is something
but what we
connected
have
to
is
that?
hunger. what we
Mhm.
what we have is a need for nutrition, and it gets obscured by this desire.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, do you think that there is something connected to the fact that like people have been um, uh, almost indoctrinated to take the fried pie and to take like it can be a desire, but it's also, I mean, that is the way that we are fed in the school system. That is the way that we
Mhm.
are fed, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost as if we don't know any other way. I had to learn to choose the apples.
Mhm.
It was had to be a conscious decision that I had to make.
Yes.
And that desire was definitely something that that I had, but I feel like, to your point earlier that you made, I don't know that it was my fault. I feel like
No,
I
no, it wasn't your fault. No, what I'm saying is not your fault.
yeah,
That it is not your fault.
yeah,
None of this is.
yeah,
None, and so part of what happens is that our bodies want nutrition and nourishment. Our bodies crave that. Our bodies need that. But we see so many messages that have us reaching for junk food, right? For reaching for snack food, for fast food, convenience food. And I get caught up in that language, and I think, oh my God, in what other area of our life do we accept junk other than food?
mm.
We
That's good.
just
That's good, Michelle.
yeah,
That's good.
in, in
That's
what other
good.
area? But we gotta get conscious. We gotta get aware of that. We gotta stop that ourselves, because it is coming at us fast and furiously.
Yeah.
And this is about saving our life. And if with every bite of food we take, we understand that this is about my life, we can start slowly shifting. But it is got we have just got to raise the vibration on this consciousness. We just we have got to be intent. What's the word now? Intentional. This is intentional and deliberate, because this is the one and only body we will ever have. We may have another life, but this is the body right here. You know, um, so the it it's fighting those messages, because is what will happen is that you get the emotions all wrapped up around the food, and you think, and I have felt this when I've gone out before, now that I eat a little differently, is that in the old days when I would be on a diet, right? And then I was on a diet, we go out and have dessert,
Mhm.
and the dessert tray would come around, and I'm like white knuckling it, trying to resist, and everybody else is having, oh, you're not gonna have any dessert? I really want some, but I want to know, no, but I really want it. I really want it, but I'm exercising willpower, self-control, and self-discipline, which all fail at one point, but I'm doing it that night, but I really want it. And as I wrote this book, what I realized, and I had so many epiphanies. My editor told me, Michelle, you can't have epiphanies every day, but I did, right? But you just had an epiphany yesterday. Well, I'm having two today. But here's what I realized is that I had to attack the desire. And so when I go out to eat and everybody else is having dessert, I don't feel deprived, because I don't want it, because I see it for what it is. Oh, you're not. Oh, I wish I had your willpower. You don't understand. It's not even willpower. It is lack of desire. If you don't want something, then you don't have to exercise willpower or self-control. So the
Yeah.
work, and why writing is important, and why rewiring our brain is important, is because that kills the desire for these things that don't serve our body, that
Yeah.
don't give us the good health that we have to decide that we are entitled to and that we want. That's the first thing. We have to decide that we are entitled to it, that we want it, and that it looks different than what we have seen all our lives, that it looks different than what our culture tells us.
Yep.
That, oh, she's a healthy one. Haven't you heard that? Right?
Yeah.
So when you hear that, you know they're fake. Right?
Big bone, big bone.
Big bone. One of the stories in my book is called Big Boned and Blue. So, and because I was, these bones right here, I had these same bones when I was 12. And so they were big for a 12-year-old. Right? My grandmother's like, "Oh, baby, you just got big bones." I carried that around with me until I was about 30 years old. I told somebody I have big bones. She said, "Michelle, you don't have big bones." I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, I do. I have big bones." And she was like, "No, no, you don't."
But something that you said is really interesting. Interesting. There's a book by Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. It's called Life Visioning. He's
Mm-hmm.
the pastor of Agape International in California,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Pain pushes until the vision pulls."
Mm.
I was like, "Oh my goodness."
Ooh.
When you're in pain, you're pushing against the pain. But when you have a vision, you're pulled. It's not a struggle.
So,
You're pulled. It's pulling
yes,
you towards the
yes,
vision.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, Ron, here's the other side of that. And here's like the big aha for me in this book. It's all about what you just said. Is that what I believe, what I deeply, deeply, deeply believe is that the pain that I experience, the pain that we all experience, our gift to the world is rooted in our pain. And that speaks to what you just said about what Dr. Beckworth has said. Our gift is rooted in our pain. But if we use food to obscure it, to
Mm,
cover it, to delay it, to mask it, to alter it in any way, that means we never feel it.
yeah.
That and des, we are then not able to step into our purpose because we're covering up with food. That we don't lean into the pain to get what our gift is, to get what we're working through, because on the other side of that pain is that vision. It's what we're being pulled to. But if we use food because we think that the pain is so great that we can't deal with it, that we need food to soothe it, we need food for some pleasure, we never get to what our greatest gift to the world is. And that's how we get robbed. That's how society gets robbed. And this is much bigger than a diet.
Mm-hmm.
That that it, our 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 misuse of food, our mismanagement of this is robbing us in so many ways that have to do with our physical health and our mental health and our ultimate purpose in living.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. And
You preaching today.
we got it. This is
Yeah.
important. This is important for us to use food for the purpose for what is intended, so that we can have relationships with people. If we continue to try to have relationship with food, that keeps us from having relationship with people. And that's how we live. That's what our life is about. How
Yeah.
we interact with one another. How we navigate this emotional space with one another. That's how we grow. That's how we develop. That that's what that's about. But as long as we try to have a relationship and emotionally overeat, we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna be in this place of being unfulfilled.
Mm. Mm.
Michelle, that'll preach. Just telling you, that'll preach. It's like you preaching today.
Oh man, man, let me tell you something. I have found so much joy on the other side of this addiction that
Mm.
I know it's possible. I wrote this book because for 42 years I ate for the wrong reasons, and I don't want anybody else to ever have to do it. I want anybody who is ready to understand that they can beat this thing, that it is beatable. They can rewrite their stories. They can get in good health. They can make some peace with food. And that for me not to write the book and know what I know about this and have insight means that those 42 years were for nothing. And
Yeah.
I can't even live with that.
Yeah.
I cannot even live with that.
I mean, I don't know where we are in terms of time, but I have a question that I just wanted to just ask because you said the word addict, and I was just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about, like, there are people who, overeat and they are, may even be overweight and they may have been doing it all the time and they may be watching this with a bag of chips in their hand right now, but they would not necessarily use the word addict. So tell
Hmm.
me how you have decided that that is you
Hmm.
and how you think about that word in relationship to food.
Yeah. All right. So Um, let me first say this is that I struggle. I struggled with this thing for 42 years, and I was diagnosed as morbidly obese many times,
Mm.
and and it's a disease. I
Mhm.
mean, obesity is a disease. Addiction is a disease,
Mhm.
and food moved from being nutrition and nourishment to food-like substances that were addictive. And so, an addiction is compulsive behavior that we engage in without regard to the consequences. It doesn't matter whether it's cocaine. I mean, there's one of the in one of my
Sugar
chapters.
is more addictive, they say. They say
Yes,
sugar
yeah,
is more
and
addictive.
but in one of my chapters, rock bottom, I talk about in the '80s when I hit a rock bottom, that my white substance of choice, you might have thought it was cocaine, but it was sugar, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so to engage in any sort of behavior, compulsive behavior that's detrimental to you without regard to the consequence, that is addiction. That is the definition of addiction. And we're stuck. The challenge is that when you don't see it as addiction, you try to treat it like it's diet. And diet and addiction are treated differently. And
Yeah.
and the part of
Ooh,
this
that's good. That's good.
the part of this food piece is that you can live without gambling, you can live without certain drugs, you can live without cocaine, you can live without alcohol, but you cannot live without food. But
Hmm.
here's the thing, you can live without processed foods.
Yeah.
That's the distinction. There is stuff in this food that keep us addicted to it, that want us to have more of it, to fill this space, to take the space of nutrition and nourishment that we aren't getting. And we can't eat enough junk food to get to replace nourishing food. You can't do it. The only
Hmm.
thing that the only thing that nourishing food can do what nourishing food can do, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you are thirsty and you don't know the difference between thirst and hunger, you can eat and eat and eat, but your thirst will never get quenched, because what you really are is thirsty.
Yeah.
So you can eat and eat and eat pancakes, biscuits, chips, all this stuff, eat and eat and eat, but you will always be hungry for carrots. you know?
Carrots are delicious, and apparently they improve our eyesight, which was a lie that someone told me. But I am still team carrot for life. Roasted carrots, regular carrots, which brings me to my sort of next question.
Carrots are delicious. So
Carrots
so
are delicious.
so Ron, let me just kind of go
Yeah.
back to this addiction thing again. And I want to kind of segue into cravings. Um, here's what I say about cravings. If we accept upfront that the only purpose of eating is nourishment and nutrition, and if we know that the only problem that eating and food will solve is hunger, we have to accept that as truth. We accept that as truth. And you have a craving for something. You said you have some craving for a brownie, some chips, some ice cream, or whatever the case may be. You got a craving. Here's what I say eat something nourishing. Eat some broccoli, eat some carrots, or some fish. Eat something and get full,
Hmm.
right? Eat something and get full. Eat something nourishing and get full. And if you still have the craving, you know that craving represents an emotional space that's not being healed. It represents some belief you have about that food can do something, because you just ate. You just ate and you're full. You logically know that you're full, you're not hungry, but I still want the brownie, but I still want the ice cream, but I still want the this. That's not hunger. That's something else that's
Yeah.
speaking to you. And so we have to get that kind of consciousness about how we manage food. We have to get that kind of consciousness.
Oh, I think we're
She cut out. Hmm.
she's a little frozen. It makes me think too about foods that I often crave, and I have to be honest, I crave fresh tomatoes, real fresh tomatoes, because you cannot. a lot of store-bought tomatoes, they do not smell or taste like real tomatoes. And sometimes I have this overwhelming desire for a real tomato, because a real tomato is delicious and it has like a peppery scent to it. So I love the art of food, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the art of food. But grew up eating very healthy meals that were about like, um, look at this fresh tomato. Or I remembered I wanted to know what artichokes were. And so my mom took me to the store and we bought an artichoke and we ate the artichoke. Like, she was real smooth about how this woman got me to eat vegetables. She's real smooth how she got me to do this. But it's like those are actually the cravings. That every fall I crave apples, like and I find somebody to go apple picking with me, because I make my own homemade applesauce, because if you buy it store bought, it has a lot of sugar in it. But if you make it yourself, you can get more of the flavor of the apple in it. And I love making homemade applesauce. For me, there is an art and care to food, but it also feels very mindful for me around it. But it's also very interesting, as someone with a lot of food allergies, there are just certain things, as what you were saying, Michelle, that are not available to you to eat. And it does create for me a different kind of mindfulness about eating, because while other people see maybe eating as mindless, for me, I've always got to think about what is on the table.
Yes.
Because some of that food could probably kill me, right? So it's a different orientation also to thinking through food, but also like the kind of joy and whole food, the kind of joy and a beautifully made salad, the kind of joy in a fresh tomato, or a real fresh peach, or a real fresh nectarine, right? That are giving you nourishment, but there's also a beauty to that food. So that led me to sort of this question I wanted to ask: what is the food that nourishes you, right? And that gives you energy? And then if you had to eat a vegetable or fruit, like every day, what would that vegetable or fruit be?
Okay. All right. So right now, my favorite vegetable is Brussels sprouts. I mean,
Team Brussels sprout. Team Brussels sprout.
My goodness, I love Brussels sprouts.
Oh my goodness.
And for a long time I never ate them, because being from the South, I grew up with that boiled cabbage. That was probably like my least favorite. My least favorite vegetable growing up was the boiled cabbage. And so I looked at Brussels sprouts, and they just looked like mini cabbages. And so it didn't take me any place good. And I went to someone's house and they had Brussels sprouts, and I was like, Jesus, I guess I'm gonna have to try it. and I have been a Brussels sprouts fan since then. But there's some other vegetables, Isaiah, that are high on the list too. Is that I love vegetables on the grill. Yep. So grilled carrots with that char on the outside. Oh man, grilled eggplant,
delicious.
And so eggplant. I didn't grow up eating eggplant. We didn't.
I did. Let me tell you. Eggplant. She got me with the Brussels sprouts. Then there'd be sweet potatoes. My mother tried to feed me zucchini when I was 3 or 4, and I remember I put my foot down. I was like, I will eat every other vegetable, but the zucchini situation you have, that's not going to happen. And now that's actually a meal that I miss, that she prepared. Zucchini. She does zucchini, yellow and green zucchini with onion, and she does it lightly sauteed on the stove. It's so healthy and good for you.
Yes. So I love that you call it yellow zucchini. We called it squash.
Squash.
And so but I didn't get the lightly sauteed. I got it stewed up with some butter and all matter, cooked down. We gotta cook it down. That's what
Yes, I know exactly what you're thinking. You can't recognize what it even is. Right?
Exactly. And quite frankly, that's the first way I ever had eggplant in eggplant parmesan. So I mean, I didn't even know what eggplant tasted like because I think it was an eggplant parmesan sandwich. I can't even imagine eating that now. But it's inside the bread with the thing and the cheese. It's deep fried with some other bread on top of it, and then the sauce was like where it. The eggplant was just really kind of an afterthought. But now, man, eggplant on the grill, just love, love it. So those are the vegetables. Now, what was the other thing? Did you say the fruit?
You sort of answered if there was a fruit that you would have to eat every day, and what sort of food energizes you?
Okay, so I mean, I eat bananas every day. I eat a banana every morning. I might eat two, depending on how I'm feeling. Depending on what's going on, and so I love bananas. I love mango. I love
Yeah.
mango and pineapple. So those are kind of my go to fruits, and I love melon. Love and it's you give me a trio of watermelon, honeydew, and cantaloupe. It's on. It's good. It's good. It's good.
And watermelon is great because it's like cucumber. It has a lot of water in it. So it's
Yes,
actually a way to sneak in your water intake. If
exactly,
you're not a big water drinker, you can have a
exactly.
lot of
It is.
cucumbers. Yeah.
It is. It is. And,
Ron, how about you? What's your go-to energizing food, and what's the fruit or vegetable that you couldn't live without?
Go to energizing food. Energizing is such an interesting word to use.
Food
But
is fuel,
food
right?
is fuel. Food is fuel. So I tend to really feel nourished by like soups. So like a good I actually, to your point about the tomato, I love tomato soup.
Mm.
I really do. I really like tomato soup a lot. And so I'd probably say some kind of like soup or like stew would be like my go-to.
Mhm.
And then in terms of the fruit, um, I have really gotten into these apples. Like I enjoy a good crisp apple. I live next to a Whole Foods, and so they have these really fantastic like apple crisp apple. I've got the name of them. I can't remember what the name
Honey
is.
crisp.
Is that what it's
They're called
called?
Honey crisp.
The
Yes.
honey
Yes, Honey Crisp. That's what they're called. Oh my gosh, so good. They are so good. So I literally eat one every night before I go to bed. I eat it, and it's so good. But I've also gotten into daily, almost everything that I eat. There's some garlic or lemon.
Those are good for you.
Yeah, sprinkled on it or in it. Garlic and
Mhm.
lemon is yeah
Hmm.
my things.
Garlic and lemon is good. Turmeric is a natural anti-inflammatory.
Ooh.
So I sometimes will spice my eggplant with a little bit of turmeric and cumin because those are like really good natural anti-inflammatories, like lemon and ginger as well. There's so many deep knowledges in food culture around what people used to eat when they could get hold of whole foods, and the good spices are part of that, right? As part of it as well. This has been a fantastic conversation. Michelle, thank you so much. Please, everyone, be aware of, and I'll ask folks to put our folks behind the scenes to put Michelle's links into the chat. We've got some folks sharing on that what food energizes them, blueberries and sweet potatoes. People are talking about and sharing their wisdom. Michelle, thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Oh,
Ron,
it's my delight to be here. It's just wonderful conversation. Thank you, Izetta. Thank you, Ron. Yes, I feel like this.
So good. It was so good talking to you.
it's been wonderful, and I just want to encourage folks. this is part of our Read-a-thon programming for Reading the Culture. Thank you so much for coming today for our check-in session with Michelle Petties and her book, Leaving Large. Tomorrow we will be speaking with Michael Twitty about his book, Kosher Soul, Faith and Food Journey of an African-American Jew. That's tomorrow at 2 p.m. And in the meantime, let us know what you are reading. Share that with the hashtag Reggie Reads. Happy reading, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.